Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to another episode of Grumpy Monkey Garage, where today we're talking about family cars. Now, there's a lot of different family cars. I mean, really, if we're talking about family cars, as long as it's not a motorcycle, I mean, technically you can fit your family in a lot of different things, you know? You can see in regular cab trucks. I've seen it. I don't recommend it. So these are family cars that would have third row seating where you can fit you, your spouse, two of your accidents, and room for their friends or equipment. There you go. All right. So, we got a top 5 list, and then I'm going to do another video on the top don't buy list, like worst ones. So, here's the to buy list, things you should look for. Number 5, now this might surprise you because I'm not a Mopar Dodge feller by any stretch whatsoever, 0%. But I like the Dodge Caravan. Now, what years am I talking about? Well, anything with a 3.8 or a 3.3. So this body style, 90s to mid-thousands, these are nice. Okay, now, are these reliable? No. Do they have lots of electrical problems? Yes. Are they constantly throwing their transmission out the bottom? Also yes. Well, why would you put such a terrible dumpster fire on wheels in the top 5 list? Well, let me show you. That's why. Oh, you want some more? There you go. Look at that. Look at these prices. They cost nothing, all right? And if there's one thing I've noticed about my customers who have kids, they never have any money, all right? So why would you make payments on this brand new fancy piece of junk when you could just get an older piece of junk that breaks just as much and doesn't cost as much to buy up front? Cheaper on insurance. If they hit it with the shopping cart, who gives a dang? You know, it's a lot better to just have something that's paid for that's a piece of crap than to have an expensive banknote piece of crap. And since nothing's reliable in this price category, just get something that's cheap that's going to work. Now, I'm not just picking a cheap minivan. This was on purpose because we have the Chevy Uplander and the Ford Windstar, Freestar, whatever they're. Don't buy those. Not because they're worse, but because they're not as popular. If you're in this price point for a grand crapavan, you're going to be buying stuff from the junkyard probably because you're going to be a poor, and that's okay. You know, just don't pretend to be what you're not, and you know, go through life here. But if you go to Pull Apart, there's Pull Apart's website. Here's 10,000 caravan. Look at it, there's a sea of caravans. Okay, they're everywhere. If you need a fender, if you need an alternator, if you need a motor mount, if you need struts or a control arm, you can find everything you want used for a caravan, and you cannot find everything you want used for a Chevy Uplander or a Ford Freestar or Windstar. There's just not enough of them, but you can find everything for a crapavan. So even though they're not reliable, they are number 5 on the list because they're so cheap to keep on the road if you just need something to haul the family. Now, I wouldn't advise taking this out of town, going on long trips, unless you get a really nice one. There are some, you could pay better money and get something a little nicer. But I wouldn't. These are not reliable. What they are is they're cheap, they're safe, they're transportation, and they work. And if you're a DIY, you're trying to save money, you're watching car channels on YouTube, you probably are. These are easy to fix. You don't need a lot of fancy stuff. They don't have timing belts. They don't have any nonsense to deal with. Much, much easier to work on in your own garage with a set of Sears Craftsman set, okay? Dodge Grand Caravan, number 5 on my list. There you go, Mopar guys. I said something nice about you, okay? Can you, like, chill out now? Okay, number 4 on, these are things you might actually want to buy, but maybe some of the same here. I have the Chevrolet Suburban. Look at this thing. I like it. Now, not the new one. See this? This is garbage. Anything with active fuel management and independent rear suspension and all that. Nope, nope, nope. We don't want that. We want this. Okay, and I bought one and I'm doing a review on it specifically to talk about why these are great. And that video will be coming out soon. You might actually see it. We'll put it in the description if it's there. But these are great. You can fit everything. You know, tons and tons of space. If you want to haul a boat, a camper, whatever family activity you're going to do, this will do it. It'll pull stuff. It's basically a Silverado with a back on it. Huge, huge vehicle, and I do call it a truck. Look at this tailgate, all right? It still has a tailgate. That's cool. So 1990s through about 2006-ish, it's about when you want to stop looking for them. Now, if you live in the Rust Belt, you're kind of screwed, but there is ways to get past active fuel management later. Just know you're going to be paying money for that situation. The lifters collapse. It's a whole ordeal. You replace the cam. It's a nightmare. But Suburban, I like it. Around here, they're cheap. We don't have rust problems here in the South. 2-wheel drive, basic. Just power windows and locks, AC and power steering. Don't get all this fancy power seat and crap that doesn't work. Very, very basic, very easy to take care of. And this is another DIY friendly one. There are tons of videos on the 5.3, the 6.0, the older 5.7s. You know, there's tons of videos on how to work on these things and do repairs. There's nothing you couldn't do. Small block Chevy, most popular engine in the world for hot rodders, and you know, every parts store is going to have everything you need for this thing. tons and tons of videos. You can DIY your way through one of these. Very, very highly recommend. Now on that same kind of page, number 3, the Tahoe. Now, of course, these involve their GMC counterparts as well for both the Suburban and the Tahoe. Now, why did I put the Tahoe above the Suburban when they're basically the same vehicle? Well, the Tahoe is easier to drive. It's literally that simple. You don't have as much space, but it's way easier to drive. I know that my wife does not like to drive the Suburban because it's like 85 feet long and she can't park it that well, and it's a problem. But the Tahoe, a lot smaller, definitely a little more convenient. Also, it fits in a garage with space. You could fit a Suburban in a garage, but as we did our math, we found out that it's not very easy to get them in there. You're really going to be against the door and against the wall. It's a little more complex. So Tahoes here, don't like the back doors so much. They got the barn door. Now I don't know if they came with tailgates until later, the 99 to 06 body style where you could just lift gate it out of the way. But the barn door style that I have, we've got a shoestring making it work on our Tahoe. Not a big fan. I know the tailgates break too, so there is some issues with them, but I mean, for the price point, the Tahoe is next to nothing compared to our next suspect on the list, which is a number 2 here, is a Toyota 4Runner. Well, mine 4Runner doesn't have third row seats. My 4Runner doesn't have third row seats either. But it is available with third row seats. You can get them. There is 4Runners out there with third row seats. Now you got weird ones. Some of them have the jump seats. Some of them have fold up seats. You really need to know what you're looking for. But if you can find a 4Runner with third row seats, unmatched reliability. These are not DIY friendly like the other 2, well, 3 vehicles on the list, but you know, they're not as simple as a small block Chevy. They're not as simple as an old caravan. They're a lot more complicated, I would say. There's intake in the way of the spark plugs on certain generations of it. So you gotta be aware of that. But it's a much more high quality vehicle for a higher price point. These 4Runners are not cheap, especially with third row seats. Look at this. They do cost money, but they're very good. You can still tow the boat, tow the camper, tow whatever you need. You have towing capacity out of this. It's not a minivan. You have the ability to do a lot of stuff, and you're not going to have that many breakdowns. I own a 4Runner. I don't take care of it at all because I spend all day taking care of everybody else's crap. I towed the camper all the way up to Tennessee recently from Georgia. No, not that far, but you know, it's a 3 or 4 hour trip for me. And did totally fine, pulling a full camper. No issue at all. I even had an extra refrigerator because I like my snacks. And it did it. So, huge fan of the 4Runner. Number 1. Now, before we mention number 1, we have an honorable mention. Sorry, Honda guys, but you're the honorable mention. It's our Honda Odyssey. Now, why is that not higher on the list? Why is that only our honorable mention? Well, it never fails that every time I have a family with a Honda Odyssey that comes in here, they cannot afford to fix it. Power steering problems, constant oil leaks, VVT problems, emissions problems like catalytic converters are expensive. The transmission's going out. Timing belt, just a piece of routine maintenance is expensive on these. Somebody out there, the timing belt's not very hard. You don't have to do it on any of these other vehicles. You don't have to. You just don't, because they're engineered properly. Small block Chevy doesn't have it. 4Runners, the 4.0 that has a timing chain, you don't need timing belt. Some of the older ones like mine did have a belt, but Honda Odyssey, unforgivable. Too much crap going on that people can't afford to fix them. Also, why is this alternator so expensive? What? Why? Comparison. Here's a Tahoe alternator. Okay, so I don't get it. All right, why is the Odyssey so expensive on this? It does not make sense. And they go out all the time. It's aggravating. Anyway, that's why the Odyssey did not make the list. It's not that it's particularly bad or unreliable. It's every time it's broken, people who own it typically can't fix it. It goes back for sale. Some other poor family buys it, can't afford to fix it. It goes back for sale, and it's an endless cycle of fix it, duct tape it together, and move on and just keep BSing it together. Not a good move. Number 1 on our list. We got two number 1 placements because it depends on what you need. The Sienna and the Sequoia. Now, you knew Toyota was going to be number 1 place on this thing, but you weren't expecting that number 5, were you? Sienna, best minivan you could buy. Now, some of them have timing belts, but newer ones, they've gone to chains. Since the mid-thousands, they've gone to chains. Or late thousands, I guess. 2008 has a chain, I think. These things, they don't have the trouble. They just don't. CV axles, yeah. Struts, yeah. But most minivans do. But if you need a vehicle and you're not towing anything or live somewhere where you have to off-road all the time, you don't need the Sequoia. Get the Sienna. Now, why would I get the Sequoia? I tow stuff. I pull a camper. I want to go places and do things. I actually use trucks as trucks, even when they're SUVs. Sequoia is for you if you're doing pulling. If you're not pulling anything, look at the Sienna. Those are my top 2 for number 1. I couldn't narrow it down. because it really is a lifestyle difference between the two. If you're pulling a horse trailer, that Sequoia will do it. But these two are money. If you're not at this level where you can afford these expensive cars right here, go back down on the list. Nothing wrong with it. Caravan does everything Sienna does, just breaks more. All right, it's just the way it is. But they're cheaper to own, so just live within your means. Don't buy crap you don't need, and get something that's going to work for you. However, these are my suggestions. All right, you guys be safe out there. Make sure you pick something that's going to be reliable for you and your family. We'll see you next time. Grumpy Monkey Garage.